So last night at this supremely delicious concept and living dream of open field co-living housewarming party, one of our Dragonfly dads asked me for the elevator pitch for decolonising, homeschooling, and in the context of our Dragonflies group. So I wanted to let you know that I do have a decolonised homeschooling webinar. I'll try to package that together. The main thing is that it is a relationship building activity. Homeschool is a relationship building activity of epic proportions, which those of you that sent your babies to school and maybe they came back out of school because of a multitude of reasons can see that very quickly, that the connection that is available and the healing that is available for both you and them happens very quickly. Dragonflies group, the lesson that we start with and the way that I weave through pivotal response therapy basically is that the information is for the older folk that are coming to the group. The children want to catch up with their friends. They get very excited for Dragonflies. They do love to learn and they're sitting there ready. But a lot of the lessons are for the older folk to then weave through the rest of the week, because I only get a few hours with my Dragonflies, and to weave through your life as well. So decolonising homeschool, in the Dragonflies we use Yunka Porter's 8 Ways pedagogy, and so we weave that Indigenous lens through everything. We use the teachings of elders and of the ancestors through everything we do. It's our first port of call. And then it's about radical acceptance. So the need of any of the humans in the dynamic, they're obviously fluid and changing, and so we pivot and we respond to that. The interests of whoever, the child or the adult, we're pivoting and responding to that rather than having a set structure. And I think a lot of bush schools try to teach so much and they get really anxious that everyone attends every lesson and that there's still a structure involved, and there's still age limits, whereas we do intergenerational. And I really want parents to be involved because of this weaving the knowledge through the rest of the week. I'm teaching you how to guide. I'm not teaching the children. I'm teaching you how to guide, how to build your relationships through this journey. So yeah, we don't have the age groups and the age limits. And in the decade that I've been doing this, I've had all ages, teens to babies to elders, and there's never been a lesson that everybody hasn't been engaged in. And then probably the last thing I'll say before I say that there's a whole webinar on this, so hold tight, is that in the Indigenous way of, there's doggies I have to say hello to. Good morning. Hello, sweetheart. Hi. Good morning. You too. So we are nature. We are not there fixing nature. That's a very colonised way to do things, which then every solution becomes a problem that we need to fix again. We recognise ourselves as nature, and we kind of lose the concept of self in that way and become collective with our beautiful group, with the land, with the furred folk, the winged folk, the little slithering folk, which a lot of nature groups and nature folk have kind of gone very extremist in that leave no trace concept, And what that does is that starves the children of a lot of their curiosity, which would lead to them being lifelong citizen scientists and doing these surveys that I've been introducing the kids that will show the changes over seasons of the animals and plants. And with the powerful owl, I had to wait a little while to introduce them to the children because the folks that come to see them every night each season very staunchly protects them. However, the conversation that I had with them was that if you, and these are older folks too, that they are gatekeeping this knowledge from young folks that were so excited. I mean, the hype around these powerful owls and their lifestyle and behaviour that we've been learning about the last few weeks was just extraordinary. And oh, hello, good morning. Hi. And so for life now, these little folks are going to have a vested interest in protecting powerful owls. And if these older folk and a lot of folk who are in nature studies and nature industries trying to gatekeep the information, I come across this time and time again with wildlife, with plants, is that they're going to die with that information, basically. And this new, very excited little group of dragonflies gets to start their life with their eyes wide open and their sixth sense ready to notice how to respond positively to them being a dynamic part of the nature that they are and where they find themselves. The last thing I will say, just for today, is that something that Jacob and I spoke about and that Dan had said in his speech last night is about resourcefulness and resilience. And resilience for disabled folk like me, for queer folk like me, for Aboriginal folk like my children. Resilience has become a weaponized term in order to make folks like us okay with our severely reduced life expectancy and quality of life. The kind of resilience that we teach is such decolonized resilience. It's not how to cope with bullying, because kindness and gratitude is weaved through every lesson that we have. There's no rewards and punishments. There's a complete permission given at Dragonflies to move away from a space when your regulation requires you to do so. And actually, there's permission to be not regulated. There's this big thing around this buzzword of regulation. And yes, being in the Dragonflies space with a lot of bringing my training as a psychologist, a recovered psychologist, thank goodness, because that's a colonized system we can get into at some point too. Bringing that kind of therapeutic lens into it too. It is a regulating space. However, that's not the point. That's not the purpose. It's a beautiful side benefit. Resilience and resourcefulness, being able to survive well when you hit hard times, and being able to connect with nature and community. So community care is another huge, big foundational thing when, over the last decade of, oh, how beautiful. Over the last decade of running Dragonflies, look at this wild radish. Oh my goodness, yum. Over the last decade, we have supported our families in so many different ways through being stalwart death keepers when we've had folks pass in our community, rallying around to every kind of community care you can think of. Okay, one more thing. It's not about the children learning or retaining any of this information. It's about the feeling they get about being in this work, because we're in the age of information, which means they can Google something in their hands once they're older Once they're an adult, they can Google anything and find out any information. It's about them knowing how to learn, how to be resourceful, how to find this information, and how to critically think. This is important in the age of AI, how to critically think about this information. You know, when we're speaking language and we're paying respects to the land that we're on, or the language of other folks that we're traded with, it's about the children getting their mouth around the shape of different language, knowing that this colonial settler language was not here first, is not the most important thing, does not make you an elite person because you can speak it perfectly. Knowing that there's something else out there, and the ancestors hearing that language. So even if they never remember any of it, they know that it exists, and the ancestors are hearing it on their country. I guess that's the difference with school, right? They're this rote learning, that all of this information that's jammed into their brains in order to pass a test, and then it can just float away. It doesn't change them at a cellular level. It's not creating lifelong learning.